This is a combination value investing presentation. My name is Ron Hosen. I am either going senile, which I suspect, or I have lost my ability, which I took great pride in until a year and a half ago, to get a high return on investment in financial instruments. And I have a whole bunch of other videos which are examples of what I can and cannot do. So at the moment, the talk on Wall Street, Bloomberg, CNBC, is that suddenly the American stock market is the place to be. And it follows from that there is an American economic renaissance, that we're going to get manufacturing, and that our sudden abundance of natural gas will cause manufacturing to return. And that American genius will prevail in the world. So I think before I go into an analysis of the markets, which will be totally meaningless since I'm now senile, let me give you a view that I got from Wikipedia on American exceptionalism. Now, it's nice to have something called American exceptionalism. That is, not only do you have a country that you feel like is yours, but it's special. And like you feel like you're special, well, your country's special. And so that makes you even more special. And the fact that you're part of a country that has lost 3 wars in the last 15 years. You probably have forgotten about that. Now, Alexis de Tocqueville traveled through the United States in the 1830s. Now, nobody in America gives a fuck about any Frenchman living or dead, except de Tocqueville, because he said good things about America. And he said them only 180 years ago, when America was, of course, identical to the way it is today. He said, there was liberty, there was egalitarianism, individualism, populism, and laissez-faire. So laissez-faire meant people could have businesses. I mean, you wanted to work hard, you wanted to conserve your capital, you thought you could sell something that other people need, and so you're an entrepreneur. And I think that's what laissez-faire meant, as compared with France, and probably as compared with Britain. Populism means populism in that day and age meant lynching African Americans. But it also meant that common people had a right to participate in politics, which they didn't in Europe at the time. Individualism says you define yourself. What characteristics you have, which ones you acquire, which ones you use. You define yourself through your activities. That's individualism. And there was probably a good bit of that. Liberty. About 10 years ago, or maybe a little longer, reports were coming out of China that young couples could sit in the park, could walk through the main square and hold hands. Now, young couples like to hold hands, particularly in societies where it's not that easy to get laid. So this was real freedom because previously the communist government was in charge of just everyday behavior. And it was now okay for people to engage in this simple behavior. That's freedom. And so liberty in America probably involved a lot more. I mean, you could probably hold hands in 1830 in the U.S. because you might get shot by whoever's husband, his wife you were holding the hand up. Egalitarianism was what he sought. Now let me tell you what egalitarianism is. It's not something that America has. Vermont, back in the 1830s, and previously when Vermont was a nation, like Virginia was a nation, they had town meetings. And so anybody who lived in a town could go to the meeting and they decided, what kind of roads they would have, things like that, things that affected their lives. And the history of these meetings says that it didn't matter whether you were educated or rich, or were a farmer or a laborer. If you had the guts and the skill to express yourself before the meeting, then you could do it. And they listened to you. This is something that was okay. I mean, you belong there. That's not true in the U.S. today. The people, once you elect a person to an office, that person is no longer your equal. That person becomes a con artist who has tricked you into letting him or her become your superior. And they are pledged to take care of you, which means they will trick you into believing they are doing something for you. And what they're doing is something for themselves. So an egalitarian society is one where people really don't make distinctions of rank. Democracies are not necessarily egalitarian. Evidently, people of different status in South Korea, and these are very educated people, are addressed differently than people of lower status. And even at technology companies, young, lower status employees hesitate to send suggestions up to the top. So we may have something remotely egalitarian in certain pockets of America, like the venture capital areas, where people are attracted because they can express their possibilities that way. What we now know is that people hire professionals to do their investing because professionals have conned them into believing that they have insights that regular people can't have. Used to be mutual funds, but now it's everything. And then every third year these people lose their asses. But then they say, well, then everybody did. An investment advisor in 2008, who I met standing in line to vote, his wife was running. He said, of course, well, everybody has lost this year. And I said, no, I was up 21%. And he was clever enough to do a double take, thereby inducing me to vote for his wife. No, everybody didn't lose money in 2008. But the idea is that these people are the only people now who participate. There are no independent investors, as I understand it. So, what is it that makes America, to the right-wing ideologue, a shining city on a hill, exempt from historical forces that have affected other countries? How much time?
Minute and a half. 1.5 minutes.
So, one thing I noticed is that most of the people who talk about the greatness of America and how we're returning to the city on the hill are white Gentiles who have, on average, an IQ of about 95. Perhaps the ones that have worked their way on TV have an IQ in excess of 95. But their constituents don't. Okay, so part 2 will come up, and I'll end up with some investment advice, which will be shit.